welcome back to a new video, which is kind of a funny coincidence, I would call it. So right now it's just before midnight, Friday evening, and we've been working on this video for 3 or 4 days now. And I was just refreshing YouTube and I saw that Steve made a video about this PC, and obviously you will go through all my footage in a second, all the progress of like reviewing this HX90 mini PC unit. And yes, it's quite funny because prior to Steve's video, all the videos and reviews I could find online were basically like, I don't know, they were way too good considering what I found inside. And Steve basically found exactly what I found, which is really awesome. So, I mean, let's just get right to this. It's the Minisforum HX90, which is an AMD 5900 HX mobile CPU based mini PC. So first, when I read through the specs and they were advertising that they're using or planning to use liquid metal, I thought this could actually be quite interesting, especially when I hear about that somebody is using liquid metal mass production. I'm always curious how they're managing to do it. I tried to like it. I really tried to like it, but like from day to day, it was getting worse and worse. All right, so have fun with this video, and hats off to Steve for also coming across exactly the same stuff and drawing exactly the same conclusion.
Seasonic, the heart of your system.
Just some R20 multi and single results. Multi is pretty much on par with the 9900 KS, except for the fact that, as you can see, the CPU package power peak was 65 watt. So it's like a third of the CPU power consumption, but it's the same multi, so it's very impressive, especially considering that it's such a small unit. But looking at the CPU temperature, that is a lot higher than I expected, with just below 90 degrees Celsius. I received this Minisforum mini PC, which is featuring a AMD Ryzen 5900 HX CPU, so with integrated GPU Vega 8. I think Sheik doesn't find this as entertaining. It's a bit tired. But yeah, I mean, looking at the temperatures, I kind of expected more, because when they contacted me, this thing is from Minisforum, they also pointed out that there should be liquid metal underneath the heatsink. So I maybe expected better temperatures than what we saw, considering that it's only a 65 watt heat, considering that it's only 65 watt power consumption of the package. I guess we're just going to open it up and check how it looks like inside. First going to do a 3D mic just to also check 3D performance. Well, I guess 3D performance, I guess I also don't want to call it performance because there is no performance, I guess. Well, okay, so that's 3.3 FPS in GT1. Just to get an idea of the performance, it's about double the performance of a GT 1030, which is like the minimum you could ever put inside a desktop PC. And it's like half the performance of a GTX 1050 Ti. So I guess, yeah, we don't really have to do any kind of gaming benchmarks. That's really not worth it. Yeah, there will not be any kind of gaming performance, but that's also not really a surprise. And just a quick look on connectivity, just neglecting like 3D performance, because this is mainly just like a tiny desktop for, I don't know, your daily work. And we have a USB Type A, USB Type C, audio jacks in the front. And you can actually hook up 4 monitors in total, 2 times DisplayPort, 2 times HDMI, audio again on the back, Ethernet, 4 times USB Type A again. And on the bottom we can see the external PSU connector. But let's just open this up. One thing that straight annoys me is if they use such screws like Torx with this pin in the center, just to artificially make it more difficult to open devices. I mean, it's not like you're going to replace a lot of components inside, but you might want to upgrade your SSD at a certain point or your memory, and then this is not the typical Torx screw you just have laying around everywhere at home, right? So yeah, not a fan if they make it artificially difficult to open up things. Underneath the cover we can straight spot Wi-Fi antenna right here. I'm not sure what this thing right here is for. And here we have the M.2 SSD. And I mean, that is a straight reason why you want to open up the cover, because this is only 256 gigabyte. And I'm not sure if that's like the standard configuration of or if they just wanted to cheap out on the sample they sent to me, because like nowadays a 256 gigabyte SSD is $30. And it makes absolutely no sense. This is about $750 in total, this thing. If you spend $750 on a PC, you're not going to cheap out on an SSD like that. You're going to straight invest in like 512 GB or 1 TB drive. 256 GB just makes no sense whatsoever. Once we remove the screws on this like cover, then we can like carefully take out the mainboard, just push it slightly inwards, and then you can flip it out. But you have to be careful because there's this like bendable PCB wire, whatever, which goes to the front panel PCB. All in all, the first impression is really high quality. The PCB has such a nice feel, like it's so clean, just this matte black. I really like it. If you just neglect the fact that it's quite difficult to take this apart, and also considering that at a certain point you might, I mean, it will take quite a long time nowadays that the battery runs out, but at a certain point you might want or have to replace the battery for the BIOS. And also, if you want to upgrade your memory, it's not that easy. But let's check how it looks like underneath here. Well, that is strange liquid metal. Well, it's actually no liquid metal. I read it online on some articles that it was supposed to be liquid metal, but well, that's definitely not the case. By the way, just how the PCB looks like, and also the fact that I guess those are the 2 BIOS chips, could be 2 BIOS chips. And if that's the case, this kind of looks like a Gigabyte board. I'm not sure, but just the look of the PCB and the components could be Gigabyte OEM, but I'm not 100% sure. The heatsink itself feels nice. Has a quite nice touch to it. Maybe we can find some info if we Google that, but my first impression was that this is like a nickel-plated copper surface. Alright, so I did some more research on the Minisforum website. Also read through the email contact I had with them, because with the liquid metal confusion, liquid metal is advertised everywhere, but clearly my sample does not use any kind of liquid metal. Judging by the heatsink is in theory capable of using liquid metal. It's a quite high quality heatsink. It has a copper base which is nickel plated. And using that with conventional thermal paste wouldn't really make much sense. Like having the nickel plating on there just adds extra costs, but would not have any like positive aspects on conventional thermal paste, because it's just protecting from like the corrosion of the liquid metal. Then again, it's also quite strange that they're sending out all the samples. Like there are also other like videos out there on this PC, and they're all like also judging performance, and none of them seem to be using liquid metal. Also the CPU on there, that's all I can say, is that the CPU is not prepared for liquid metal in this state. Because you have all those tiny SMD caps and resistors surrounding the die, and you have to add like a protection layer around the die. Some kind of silicon sealant, whatever, foam to seal it off from the liquid metal. Because in mass production, especially if you use liquid metal, because I know that from like doing that with a thermal grizzly on a daily basis, you have to seal off the outer parts from the liquid metal, especially during mass production. You're using a bit more liquid metal than you're usually using with like manual application, and you have to protect your surroundings from liquid metal spills. So I'm not sure if they're really not just ready yet, or if it will never use liquid metal, but yeah, that's something I just cannot be sure about. One more thing that's really annoying me is that they're claiming they're using carbon fiber everywhere to make this thing as light as possible, and to like enforce the chassis, whatever, to make it as strong as possible, but nothing on this thing is carbon fiber. This is just plastic with structure. You can absolutely, like, even a blind person can like feel that. Because if you just go across this, you will notice that this is just like a very fine structure, which you can do with like injection molding on the surface itself. And this tiny structure, which you can feel, causes the impression of using carbon fiber material, but there is no carbon fiber on this thing. Doesn't matter if it's the front side or this side or the other part. We can do a scratch test to just validate that. But yeah, I don't get why they're claiming to use carbon fiber everywhere, and they're clearly not using a tiny bit of carbon fiber. That's just scam. Yeah, I'm not sure about the liquid metal part. That could still just be a sample issue. which I'm not sure about. But the carbon fiber advertising is complete bullshit. So we're just going to double check that with the carbon fiber claims. But I mean, just looking at this part right here, which is like a normal insert you're doing with like injection molding, that's not how it works with carbon fiber. Well, that is a normal scratch in plastic. Okay, so you clearly saw that this is just ordinary plastic. Tomorrow I will go to our Grizzly office, pick up some thermal Grizzly shield, also some liquid metal, and then we will do a performance check and see if liquid metal would even help anything. And also, I mean, I guess they just never checked out what we're doing on this channel, because otherwise you wouldn't be that stupid to send over such a thing, which is like missing 50% of the claims, especially the carbon fiber thing. And usually you know that I'm taking apart everything. I even go to exhibitions with a screwdriver. And then to send this here is just, yeah, it's not smart. I was just checking out this thing just more in detail because I wanted to see like contact surface and like contact pressure of the cooler and everything. And then, can you see this? There is liquid metal on the memory sticks. That's also liquid metal. And there's also liquid metal here. What the actual... I'm not sure how I missed that earlier because, I don't know. I mean, I just didn't pay enough attention, I think, on the case first, but... Liquid metal here, there's liquid metal here, there's liquid metal here. There is liquid metal just everywhere inside the case of my review unit. Which doesn't make any sense because there was no liquid metal on the CPU. Probably indicates that they had some spillage issues with liquid metal, replaced it with conventional thermal paste, but somehow messed up like cleaning the review samples or whatever. I don't even know what to say about this. This is like... I don't know. That's probably the worst I've ever seen. It's one day later. As you can see, we are at our Grizzly office, and so yeah, going to clean things up, especially remove the liquid metal residues from the memory and everything else. I also wrote an email again to Minisforum yesterday, just to double check some of those facts. First of all, first of all, I checked regarding the liquid metal issue, because in their initial email they stated it's a supply issue regarding the liquid metal, which is obviously not true because we found liquid metal residues everywhere. So they were experimenting with liquid metal for sure on this particular sample. And when I confronted them with this fact, they said, yeah, so they were probably testing liquid metal on this, and it was not a supply issue, it was an issue of sealing off the chip from the sealing off the SMD components, exactly what we kind of expected. And that they had trouble with this, that they finally fixed it. They also offered to send a second unit to me to double check with like the sealed off unit, but I'm not going to do that. It's just weird that in some other YouTube reviews, I checked the video, for example, from Jay's 2 cents. I'm not sure if he did not get the information that the initial sample did not use liquid metal, but they also, like nobody else, removed the cooler. Some of the reviews are either stating that it's conventional thermal paste because it's a sample, and other reviewers are saying that it's liquid metal and they never checked what's underneath. Maybe they knew, maybe they didn't, I don't know. None of them also criticized the fact about that nothing of the case is carbon fiber. I confronted them about this as well. I said, the marketing is full of carbon fiber stuff online, and that's like nothing about this is true. There is not a zero, like not 1% of this case is made of carbon fiber. Their reply was that indeed the case is not 100% made of carbon fiber, but it's like carbon fiber enforced with proportions of plastic. Yeah, it's like 99.9% proportions of plastic, and the rest I don't know, but it's just visuals, right? It's just structural surface for the plastic, which gives you a look of carbon fiber, but it's definitely not. So that's false advertisement. It's just a stupid claim. They should not do that. And I'm not going to send like a second or third email telling them that this is wrong. They will see it in the video. All right, going to clean up the liquid metal from especially The memory stick, like the top one, that is probably the most critical part. The rest of most of the liquid metal was spilled inside the case, which is not really an issue. It's not beautiful, but it shouldn't affect the functionality of the PC. But for example, for this memory stick, there's like liquid metal. You can probably see it's like liquid metal right next to those SMD components. And yeah, if this would be 1 or 2 millimeter down or to the left, then this could definitely short parts, could damage things permanently. So let's clean that up first. I'm just going to use some of the thermogristy remove stuff, which contains acetone, and acetone is pretty much ideal for removing any kind of liquid metal residues. And just carefully swipe across, try to make the liquid metal stick to the swap, and then can easily remove it. Same goes for the upper left proportion. Just removing this gently. So the memory stick is nice and clean again. And the bottom one didn't have any liquid metal on it, so we don't have to clean that one. And the last thing we have to remove here is on the memory slot. It's luckily just on the plastic. All right. It's always quite a big, quite a huge mess if there has been so much conventional paste on there and you're trying to properly clean this off, then yeah, it's always messy. Always makes the PCB around dirty. So we're just conventionally shielding the components off. So first adding the liquid metal in the cooler. And a tiny bit for the CPU. I just finished testing with liquid metal on it. Surprise, the score is exactly the same. I guess it's just because it's completely TDP limited. Still just below 5300 points in R20, but it significantly dropped in temperature. 77 degrees Celsius max. I guess that's a decrease of about 15, almost 20 degrees Celsius. I just want to highlight or add that I'm just finishing my testing open test bench because the case is still full of liquid metal inside and I don't want to put the mainboard back in without cleaning it. And right now, because it's like just after midnight, cannot be asked cleaning this. I can just tell you that there was a positive impact obviously on the temperature, which was quite obvious with liquid metal, but we also have to keep in mind that it's now open, so it's better for ventilation for the fan, doesn't have to breathe through the structure right here, even though ventilation wise this was not too bad. But I can also tell you that at least from the noise level this was much better because the fan was not spinning as high. What is really entertaining to me about this entire case is the fact that they're just lying all the time. They're not only lying about the specs, the case, whatever, they're also lying to us reviewers directly. Because obviously Steve from Gamers Nexus had exactly the same experience a few days before us. Because the reply I got about like the carbon fiber stuff and the liquid metal spills and stuff is like 24 hours old. But for him it's like a week or two. Which means that, I mean, in the email to me, they were pretending that this is like a unique case and they never heard about this and they cannot explain how this happened and they would like to send a second unit where they are sure that liquid metal is applied. And Steve highlighted that it was 99% not the case because the temperatures were the same when they got the second unit. So I guess they're just trying to rip off people. And I mean, not really ripping off, but they're kind of ruining their own product in a very, very stupid way. Because the product itself, if you would like neglect the case, neglect the phase that liquid metal is missing, the performance is good. The mainboard is a good quality. The memory is maybe not the best with the high latency, but if you're just doing some, I don't know, like random 2D work, this might still be okay. The only thing I also don't like is the fact that they're advertising it's easily upgradable. It's easy for the customer to add and change components, which is absolutely not true. It's by far not easy, especially because they used some, at least in my sample, those stupid screws with this knob in the center, which is something you just don't have at home unless you have this Very beautiful iFixit kit. Yeah, jokes aside, but yeah, that's something which is not user-friendly. And especially if you have to take out the entire thing to swap the memory, to swap the BIOS battery, it's far from user-friendly. But what annoys me the most is the carbon fiber thing. Obviously, Steve had exactly the same. Steve reported probably the same to them, asking about the carbon fiber. I also asked about carbon fiber because I told them from my testing, what you saw with like scratching tests, and this is just like added to the mold. And after I told them, they still claim that it's made of carbon fiber. Maybe not by 100%, but it's still made of carbon fiber, which is complete nonsense. And it's just, yeah, it's just scam. In the end, it's just scam. To me, this is a typical, it typically represents some of the products you can buy on like Alibaba, AliExpress, Banggood, those pages. You can just find so much crap on there with like weird marketing claims, and this is a perfect example for this type of like hardware. Basically, it's an okay thing, which is bad. Like, well, it's actually good, but it's so bad that they're ruining their own product for nothing. Because if they just added thermal paste, didn't advertise liquid metal, if they would not claim it's carbon fiber, if they wouldn't claim it's user-friendly to open and just leave it the way it is, it's not a bad product, but they just completely ruined it, and their communication was, yeah, I'm not going to reply to them anymore. I didn't even reply on the second sample offer because it's complete crap. I'm not gonna tell them 3 times that they're not using carbon fiber, so they're just lying to us, and I'm not wasting my time on that. Right, was still entertaining to see that Steve had exactly the same experience. Right, thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Bye-bye.